Welcome to Breaking Barriers. You know your path. We know the obstacles, and we can teach you how to tear them down. And now your host, CEO and founder of Adapting Social, John Vigero.
Welcome back to Breaking Barriers. I am super excited to have Jeremy Yencer here with us today. Thank you for being here, man, with Mindful Buddy. First of all, what I love so much, so Joe Marchitelli is how we got connected.
It is, yes.
You saw
world.
A picture of me,
I did.
right, and or whatever else, and then I saw you too. You throw it in, yeah. You should bring it in.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's like we're on like cable TV. Emily, no. But so you know, I saw you posting some like giving him love, and that's the one thing for me. Obviously, owning a social media company, a marketing company, I saw like you like shouting him out and like encouraging him, and like you put up a story for him, and I'm like, yo, like this dude's really cool. Like he's really showing Joe some love. And so then I looked at your profile, and I'm like, damn, like this dude looks like he's fucking really cool. I want to talk to this guy.
Heck yeah.
And here we are.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me, man.
Yeah,
I'm so grateful to be on here, and it's a blessing. So, everything, I look at it full circle, like be a giver, and, sometimes you'll get that back.
Isn't that crazy, right? Like,
it is.
It makes sense in theory, but it's also difficult because when you're doing things for people or for like, you're putting energy out, right? And maybe you're not getting it back in some cases. I'm not saying with you and Joe, it's a situation, but just generally, it's like, it's hard to figure out when you're doing like things like that if it's going to pay off or whatever. But when you're just being that and that's just who you are, right? And you're doing like service rather than expecting, like boom, we're here, we're having a conversation, and it's all because you were just showing Joe love.
Absolutely.
Because like you didn't reach out to me, I reached out to you.
Right.
Exactly. So I saw you, and I want to actually say that real quick. Like so many people that are. Everybody knows a business owner of some sort, right? So I'm going to focus on a business for a second. Or it could be a nonprofit, whatever. But so many people know business owners and nonprofits and people who are starting something, and they don't do what you did enough, right? And that's why I was like, and that obviously when I saw your profile and what you do, I was really hooked in. I was like, oh, looks really interesting. But the bigger picture is like, I think the message behind what you did, people need to do more. Like we should be encouraging our friends and our family and our colleagues, if they're starting something new. That's a vulnerable thing.
It is.
It's scary when you're like, all right, I want to start something new, and like you don't know if you're going to succeed. You don't know what the judgment of people in your community are. So support more people that you know, and that's my point. And that's why, because like not people, who cares about Kendall Jenner's makeup or whatever the fuck is going on in the world and pop culture. It's like the people around us, we're not supporting enough, and that's what kills me. So that's why I saw what you said and your story and stuff,
that.
And I was like, dude, let's go. Like this guy's supporting Joe. Like let's go. So, but before we even dive further into that, like let's talk a little bit about who the hell is Jeremy Yencer.
Yes. Well, I'm Jeremy Yencer. I'm 33 years old, and I think there's a lot about me I could talk about, but I'm currently getting my master's degree in mindfulness. And I've been in my studies now for the last few years. A part of it I've been doing part-time just because I have two young boys, working full-time as a learning experience designer, and then starting this business, Mindful Buddy, and just launched our app on the Apple Store and Google Play Store. So
let's go.
We just launched like a few weeks ago. And
now, is that on Apple and Android?
It's on Apple and Android.
Cool.
Yeah, it's on both. And I had a big aha moment like a year ago because as a busy professional myself, I'm like, I'm getting my master's degree in mindfulness, but sometimes I have a hard time meditating. So how is the average person who is, busy in life and they probably don't even care about meditation, or maybe they think like maybe I should meditate or be a little more calm, but that just seems like out of the question, So I wanted to create something that's not just a mindfulness app, but it integrates with your digital calendar. So like that's sort of where we differentiate ourselves, is that we actually find the time for you to meditate and then use your digital calendar as a reminder for you.
Will it sync into like Google Calendar?
It will, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
cool.
so
really cool.
Yeah, we're waiting on one approval from Google. Right now it just sends notifications, but we're like this close to actually being able to actually schedule directly into your calendar. So literally if you're like, I want to do a 5-minute meditation, it'll literally find 5 minutes in your calendar and schedule it right into your calendar. So that's a big unlock for us, where Google's taking quite some time to give us the final approval. So we're
But isn't it just an API sync?
It's just an API sync, but you have to get this authorization approval from them.
You got to get the almighty Google.
Yeah, the
approval.
almighty Google. Yeah. So we got the first one
stamp.
where we can sync with your calendar. We can send you notifications based on your Google Calendar and availability. But actually scheduling events directly into your Google Calendar is like the final almighty approval from the gods of Google.
Yeah. Well, dude, that's actually really cool. And what I will say for anybody that's listening right now is, so I grew up and like I had like terrible, which I didn't know when I was young, but I had anxiety disorder. And I've had it my whole life. But I'm a very holistic dude. So like if I have a splitting headache, I am not taking any Advil or whatever.
That's incredible.
I like to figure it out myself.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until probably I would say like this past summer, because like I've always had a good grip on it, like as I've gotten older. But like obviously it comes and goes, right? But the only thing, so I wound up meeting this guy, and he got me more plugged in with like a meditative state. I wouldn't say it's as deep as you're going with it, but it was like setting your mindset up right, like doing meditation. And I've always, as a very busy business owner and entrepreneur, I've always tried to, because you see some of the most successful people, like a Ray Dalio, right? Like who's the most successful stock trader of all time.
Yep. No.
Like he like preys on meditation, and he like talks about it almost like each week when he posts a piece of content. He's like, you should meditate. Here's why you should meditate. Tony Robbins, huge meditator. Like so many people are into meditation. And that's what actually helped me significantly. And I'm still not perfect at it, by the way. So that's why I'm really excited for this today.
Well, it's obviously working, because I mean, I would have never known that you would have had an anxiety disorder. Yeah, and I actually have, I was diagnosed with late onset ADHD, so my thoughts are just kind of all over the place sometimes.
Right.
And mindfulness, like maybe similarly to you, has really helped me to be more focused, in tune with my thoughts, and not allow my thoughts to control me.
Right.
But to have greater awareness of my thoughts.
But isn't it, you know what's interesting though? I can't remember if Tony Robbins said this. I don't know who said it, but it's like, why? So like, for instance, you said you had later onset ADHD, right? So like when you think about that, like you're like, all right, because like I feel like I've never been diagnosed for that, but like when I think about my brain, like it's always all over the place, and I've always just figured out how to operate that way. Like that's just how I work, and like, why is that an issue? You know what I mean? Like why is that an actual issue? When you think about some of the most successful people, like I just had a meeting with like what the heck is the oh my goodness, one of the people at Liquid IV, right? This huge Unilever portfolio brand company, and this dude who runs it is like a genius, right? But like we had 12 sidebar conversations while we were going through it, and he's like, "It's just how I just operate. It's how I operate." And it's like you're just moving through it. And it's like, what if we're just wired that way, right? Like, what if we're wired that way?
So
I don't know.
true.
But so like because like that's the thing. Like when I was going through my anxiety stuff, like what really helped me is where it was like a big part of me fighting it was because I was fighting it, right?
Right.
Maybe I'm just more of an anxious person. That's okay. Like, and I'll work through it. Like we'll work together. But why is it bad?
Right. I think there's a bit of that acceptance of yourself, right?
Exactly.
But I think we also have like confirmation bias. Like, so if we think something's wrong with us, we'll go to the doctor and we want to confirm whatever our issues are, right? So you're like, oh, I want to put a label on it. So I think we're in today's age where we want to put a label on everything.
Right.
And to be quite frank with you, I went to the doctor's office in college, and like they literally had me fill out a form, and they're like, yeah, you have late onset ADHD. And I'm like, great, you know, they give you the medication, and for a little bit, you know, it was great. But then I realized, sort of like you, like I was like, I can't be on this medication for the rest of my life and probably feel healthy. So I need a better, more natural way to get in tuned with my thoughts and not let my thoughts control me. And that's when I started meditating, and I used one of the popular apps I won't mention, but it started helping me, and I was like, there's something here, and I want to get deeper. So I just started, and then I learned transcendental meditation. So I did that for 2 years, and then I learned Vipassana meditation, and then I end up getting, you know, I'm almost done with my master's degree in mindfulness now, and it's just been so transformative. And now being able to help other people with my Mindful Buddy app, and I've gotten some feedback on it, and it's been incredible seeing the amount of change in people's lives. And it's funny when people say, "Oh, I could never sit with my thoughts." I literally was just talking to someone. They're like, "Oh, I have ADHD. I could never sit with my thoughts," and they're a busy professional. But I was like, "Why do we put limits on ourselves? Why do we say I can't do this? Because it's uncomfortable. It's just like if you're out of shape and you go to the gym and you go on the treadmill for 5 minutes, that hurts. You get a side cramp, right? Or you lift the bicep." You do biceps for 5 minutes, and the next day you're really sore. But you have to keep going to the gym if you want to see results, or you're going to let your thoughts and your mind control you. And through mindfulness, we gain awareness. So if you're doing a 3-minute meditation practice and you're like, this feels uncomfortable, or I have this thought, or I have this great idea, or I need to go do this thing, it's like, sit with that. Be okay with being uncomfortable in the moment.
Yeah, that's so powerful, man. And I want everybody to take that in for a sec, because I think it's that type of stuff, like, you hear it and you move past it, but like, it's like, those are the things that build the foundation to strengthening the mindfulness, right? And it is, because, you know, it's funny, to this day, right? If I'm getting a massage as an example, right? I cannot be in a massage bed, even though I just said what you said not to say. I cannot be, well, I can be, but I don't like to be in a massage bed, right? And like just hearing like the beautiful Chinese music, right? Yes. Or the Asian inspired music, and just sitting there, right? Like, I legitimately like need like shit going on in the background. And it's funny. So like, I have a therapist who like comes to my house once a month. And she does like the work on me, and I have like sports TV in the background, and that makes me feel comfortable. But to your point, that's something that I need to be stronger with, right? Because like, I don't put enough time into just like silence in the mind, and like, because that's where my mind starts going, like, you know, starts thinking about those things. But I need to do it, right? And I think that's the thing. It's like just the awareness around getting to that place where you can do that stuff.
Absolutely. And I think it's less about silent, because everyone thinks when you go into meditation, you need to silent the mind. I think it's less about making your mind quiet versus awareness of what's happening in the mind and being okay in the moment, because our mind, we ruminate all the time. We think about the past. We think about the future. Yeah. We think about all the things that are happening besides right here in this moment. Like, think about the pressure of how you're sitting in the seat and what that feels like, or your feet against the ground. Like, there's all these little micro things that are happening in our life that we don't pay attention to because of the busyness of the mind. And I would say, who's in control? Is your mind in control, or are you in control of your mind? And when we have, so in Vipassana stands for insight. It's a Sati word. And simply, as you have a thought, so if you're meditating, like the idea is not to eliminate your thoughts. The idea is to simply be present in the moment with awareness. And as you ruminate or thoughts come up, you simply guide yourself. So usually we use like the breath as an anchor, right? But as you have a thought, it's like, okay, there's a thought there. It's like a cloud passing by in the sky. Like, ooh, like you see a cloud passing by in the sky, right? Like, it's just a cloud, right? You're not going to judge yourself. But a lot of times we're like, oh, I'm having a thought. That's bad. Right? That's bad, right? And then we judge ourselves, and this puts us into a cyclical loop. Instead, we, in the terms of mindfulness, we think, is this helpful or harmful? Not all thoughts are harmful, right? But some might be, right? Sometimes I have some crazy thoughts, and I'm thinking, I'm on the road, and like I think some really negative things, but it's like awareness, like, is that helpful? Is that harmful? Versus is that good or is that bad?
Right. That's powerful, man. And just the thing, take a step, like, zoom in more, right? The crazier part is when you think about how the subconscious mind works and how much your subconscious mind does every single day, every second of the day. Like, we're blinking, we're not thinking about blinking unless, like, you know, now I'm bringing it up, and I'll blink. Like, we're breathing, we're not thinking about it, our heart's beating. There's so many regulatory things that happen. And that's where to your point, like, you know, you're bringing in that mindfulness and you're able to supercharge what you're doing. And that's why when I see people who are ultra successful, like, I meditate. Even when I saw Jerry Seinfeld put up something, and he was like, they were like, what do you think like one of the biggest keys to your success are? He's like, meditation. And I was like, what the? I'm like, I can't keep hearing this. I'm like, because it's like, it sounds too simple, right? But he's like, anytime I'll have a really long day or a stressful day, whatever, he's like, meditation is my cheat code. I'm like, what? But like, that's something, unless you like unlock that part where it feels good, like, I feel like you don't know. So I think when you meditate, how often do you meditate daily?
Every day, I typically meditate at least once in the morning for a minimum of like 10 minutes.
Okay. And so when you're done with that meditation, Emily, do you meditate?
Yeah, I'm a yoga teacher.
I was gonna say, yeah. So do you meditate daily?
I don't like really sit to meditate, but I feel like it's like on drives and stuff like that. It's not necessarily like sitting with my eyes closed.
Gotcha.
But, like,
And meditation can vary. So
can
like
be mindful
there's mindful
still.
breathing, but there's also mindful walking, and even yoga is definitely a form of meditation. I mean, really, if you look at the traditional yogis, like we look at yoga going to a yoga studio and doing these poses, but yogis would even say yoga is everything in life, right? It's
Right.
the way you eat, it's the way you do your dishes, right? Yoga is holistically our whole life and how we approach life. And you do mindful dishwashing, but really the definition of mindfulness is moment to moment awareness without judgment. But how many times are we caught
Can
up
you
in
expand on that though? Like, what does that mean?
So-
Without judgment.
without judgment,
Of yourself?
like good or bad, or anything, right? If I see a person and I see a homeless person, I'm like, oh, look at them, that's terrible, right? I would
Right.
never, right? That's a judgment, right? Or like judgments can be good too, right? And I can look at someone who's successful or wealthy and be like, oh my gosh, look at them, or it could be negative where I'm stuck in this loop of like, I'll never be like that person, right? But we're comparing ourselves to other things, especially with online and social media. Social media can be a wonderful tool, but it can also be so harmful because you're in that comparative state and you're judging yourselves against other people. So non-judgment simply means just being with awareness without all the rumination of the thoughts of this is good or bad, but just simply saying, like, if I see the person who's homeless, rather than that's terrible, how could they end up in that way, it's more of like, how can I be helpful to this person, right? How can I maybe, or even the thought itself, like it doesn't even have to be that I'm helping them, but is that a helpful thought judging someone else, right? Because they're a human being who has emotions. They have real value in this life as well,
Right.
So just sitting there being present and recognizing my own thoughts by seeing like, oh, I'm having hateful thoughts, because the three roots to suffering are greed, delusion, and hatred. So if I'm having a hateful thought, then I need to pluck that out of my mind and I need to be aware of it and replace it with loving kindness. So a loving kindness is another meditation we do.
Right.
And it's simply the conditioning of the mind towards love versus hate. Because how much hate is in the world today, right?
A lot, yeah.
But hate is a condition of the mind. So conditioning is something we repeat over and over, from the songs we listen to the news, to the television, to the shows we're watching, right? It's all geared towards hate. So when we go out into the world, we're like, our minds are like magnets. So we're going to be focused on all the hate in the world. But if we condition our mind towards love, we're gonna expect more loving things in our life.
Do you so it sounds like it, but like, do you believe in the law of attraction?
Absolutely, 100%. But I think people hear the law of attraction and it's sort of.
It was like that book, The Secret.
Yeah, I've read the book, The Secret.
I've never read it. My sister read it. Have you ever read it, Emily?
I haven't read it.
Okay.
I've read like some of it. but-
That's what I started it, and I never actually finished it.
It's a good book, but I think people think like, oh well, one of the things in the book says like put a number on a check and like mail it to yourself or whatever. And but
Like
what
the Jim Carrey thing?
Yeah, but
You ever see that?
Yeah, absolutely.
He wrote
He
himself
literally
$10 million check?
Yeah, he did that, and I think there's a truth to that. But it's more of a feeling and an energy rather than just like I'm gonna write a blank check. But it's a conditioning of the mind over and over and over again, because life is gonna get tough.
Yeah.
Life is going to get in the way. Inconveniences are going to happen. But unless you truly have that emotional charge and that true belief, like. You can say, like, people say, oh, well, I never get any opportunities, right? But you might have just had 10 opportunities that passed you, but because your mind was limited and it didn't see opportunity, you didn't see the 10 opportunities that were right there in front of you.
Yeah, that's freaking powerful. Now, so let me ask you a question. How old you have one kid?
2 kids, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old.
A 4 and a 2. Okay. God bless.
Yes.
Now, boy, girl, boy?
Both boys.
Both boys, 2 boys. All right,
Yeah,
cool.
and they're wild. They're definitely
What's their
boys.
names?
So the older one is Aiden. We call him AJ, and the younger one is Ash.
Ash, got it. Okay. So now, this is like a question I always like to ask people like about this. So like, I have 3. I have 3. So I have twin 11-month-olds, and I have a 2-year-old and change.
Twins.
So twins, yeah. So I
amazing.
had 3 under 2 until like a few months ago.
That's wild.
But yeah,
Congrats.
Thank
That's
you.
incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So, but I like to ask this question of other parents. You have a
course.
4-year-old, right? So you have more experience than me. So, but when it comes to these these crucial things, right? Because life is what happens between our ears, technically, right? So mindfulness is more important than ever. How do you plan to get your kids, your boys, to think the way that you're talking, right? Because when you said that earlier about social media being harmful, one of the things I instantly went to was like, all right, like my brain started going, I guess that ADHD or whatever I have in my brain was like, all right, well, we're going to already start to like, as Johnny and Vienna and Vincenzo get older, I'm going to be like, yo, social's fake as shit. Like, don't look at anything you see on there and take it seriously because it's all smoking mirrors. Like, I already started to like think about those things, right? But then I thought about what you said too, where I'm like, are the Yogi Emily mindset, where I'm like, by the way, I love when you said Yogi Posey. Did you hear him say that before? we got to make a business, Yogi Posey. I like it. But so like I thought about it and I was like, you know what? Like the thing is, maybe it's shifting and giving the reality rather than a blanketed statement saying, hey, this is all fake. This is bullshit. Don't look at it. It's like, wait a second. Like, hey, when you're on there, these are people that are trying to pretend that like they are super successful because it makes them feel better. But that's not how we're going to live, right? Absolutely. We're going to live where we're going to work really hard. We're going to be humble. We're going to show XYZ, right? Whatever you're comfortable showing, and framing it differently, you know. Because I remember when I was younger and I was starting Adapting Social, right? I was a server at Ruby Tuesdays, and I had bought because like everything in my family, like again, it was like my parents didn't have a lot of money, and so I bought my first car. I pretty much bought all the major things in my life myself.
That's incredible.
And
Good for you.
Yeah, and I was now, like in retrospect, I'm like, thank God, right?
Yeah, right.
But I remember my friends, they got the new Jeeps and the new this, and I was like, damn, I was driving around my busted Acura CL,
right?
Which I loved, by the way. And I remember I got rid of it. I got a Cadillac CTS at the time. And it was an older one, and I posted it on Instagram, and I was like, you know, success pays off, right? Our hard work pays off. And I just started the company Adapting Social. And it's funny because my wife looks back at that post, and she was like, you were so cheesy. And I was like, it's so cringy looking back. But some people need those things to help motivate them. Yes. So I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I want my kids to understand that. Is like not just be like, these people are bullshit artists, right? Because like everybody needs something that's going to help them feel good or justify their insecurities and whatever that makes them feel heard and loved. And it's not all the same thing, right? So like when I see that, like I used to be like, oh, this guy's a bullshit artist. But at one point I was doing that, right? And it helped motivate me when people are like, yo, that's a sick car, man. Congrats.
Right.
And it kept me going in a way. So I think, but anyway, back to the initial question, like how are you setting your kids up for the mindset and mindfulness in the world that we live in today?
Biggest thing is right now I'm doing with my 4-year-old. My 2-year-old, he doesn't really understand quite yet. So.
Yeah.
But once they can start speaking and understanding, the biggest thing is affirmations. I think so. Like one thing I try to do with my son every time he goes to school is we do like say, hey, I'm strong, I'm healthy, I'm happy, I'm a good listener, and I help other people.
Right.
And I just have him repeat that. And I think one other thing.
Like regularly he's doing that?
Every morning, like cool. Before I take him into school. Like we do the affirmations. So,
I love that.
And then like this morning, I was driving him to school and he was like, oh, I don't feel good. And I was like, don't say that. Say I'm healthy.
Yeah, right.
And I'm a true believer of like, we are our thoughts. So like, I've been in relationships with people who literally will themselves to being ill, and they just believe they're always ill, or they always have headaches, or there's something always wrong with them. But it's like, again, confirmation bias, where like, again, where our focus goes, our energy flows.
Yeah.
So if you're focused on not being healthy,
right.
If you're focused on, I always have headaches, right? Then that's going to be your core belief. So what are your core beliefs? And if you believe you're a hard worker, if you believe like, I'm focused on myself and what my impact in the world is, and I want to make impact by loving other people.
Right.
I want to make other people feel good. So if you see the person who has to feel good because they have the Cadillac or whatnot, but maybe that is success for them, right?
Right.
So again, there's sort of that judgmental thing happening a little bit there too of. But I think for our children, it's just, how are we setting that example? And it's really tough because sometimes like with 2 boys, they're crazy and wild and they're acting out and they're not listening. And sometimes I've gotten angry, you know, but I need to regulate myself when I'm with them. And I think that's a big thing is regulating myself, focusing on my breathing whenever I'm in those. And we say, like, we practice mindfulness for the real world, right? And it's a practice for a reason. It's not something you master. You're not going to become a guru ever. Like one of the tenets in mindfulness is beginner's mind. So like if you've been meditating for 20 years, you're still beginner's mind, right? So having that approach of there's something new I need to learn today, and I need to regulate myself. And you know, focusing on our breath is a great anchor, because how many, like you said, it's like it's an automatic thing that's happening inside of us. You don't have to think about breathing, right? But as soon as you close your eyes and you start saying, all right, let's meditate right now and focus on your breathing, people are like, how do I do it? It's like, well, just breathe.
Just breathe, right? Don't overthink it.
Right. So when you get cut off in the road and you're pissed off and you have road rage, it's like then you can come. No, I just need to breathe, and it's that automatic reaction. But if you're not practicing, if you're not taking that 5-10 minutes, and science now shows that after 8 weeks of meditating for about 30 to 45 minutes a day, you actually make structural changes to the brain, and you know, there's more gray matter in your brain. So your brain actually changes, and they have multiple MRI studies showing this and confirming that meditation does change your brain. So if you practice this, you're going to make new neural connections, and it's called neuroplasticity. Everyone kind of says like, oh, once you're past 30 or 40, like that's just who I am. I'm not going to change.
Old dogs don't change.
Yeah, old dogs don't change, but that's a lie. And again, that's confirmation bias, right? That's a lie we tell ourselves to be accepting of the behavior that we don't really want to change. But again, are you in control of the mind, or is the mind in control of you? Who's really in control?
Yeah, that's deep, man. And I think I love that affirmation, right? And so like one of the things that I feel like with me is, you know, Patrick Bet-David.
Oh yeah, watch him all the time.
Yeah. So I love that thing that he said, that he's like every day at the dinner table, like I ask my kids like, what'd you fail at today? You know, like because making it good, right? So you're shifting what most people think is bad, and you're making it good, and it even comes down to like feedback, right? Like one of the things that I realized, so like there's a company called Next Jump in New York. They're like the $1 billion company nobody's ever heard of. And they work with like the biggest companies in the world, right? Like the biggest, like even including the US government, all these other things. But I think it was in 2018 when we went there, because we had them as a client. We're sitting there and we're learning all these different points about like raw feedback, like radical feedback. And I'm like, listening to some of the things that they're saying to each other, because they have a huge organization, and they bring in other organizations to learn from them. And so they gave us the ability to do it since they were our clients. So me and my chief operating officer went, and I was watching some of these people like, you know, give like really tough feedback. And I remember thinking to myself like, damn, that's offensive. But what I learned from it is, you know, feedback is something that like you don't own it. You're blessed to receive it. So the challenge is most people get upset. The typical, hey, Jeremy, it's not what you said, it's how you said it, right? That whole thing. And it's like, no, like, but when you really like dig into what feedback truly is, it's somebody being vulnerable and telling you something, whether it's about yourself or something you did, and they're giving it to you, right? And it's difficult for them to do too. And we then shifted the adapting social organization to say, hey, we want to be a DDO, right? Which is a deliberate developmental organization. And we can't do that unless we are really, really good at giving feedback and accepting feedback. And so when new people come into our organization, like for the first like 60 days, it's like rewiring their brain.
Wow.
Because you're used to almost sitting down. And if I say, Jeremy, your shirt, you know, I don't like it. I think you should wear another shirt, right? In most places, they'll be like, John, you're a dickhead.
Right.
Why the fuck would you say that to Jeremy? Right? Where in this organization, you like, it's not offensive. I'm saying to you, and obviously it was a bad example. I could be like, hey, I think blue will bring out your eyes more, right?
Right.
So, but there's always going to be the feedback and that's part of what we do here is you have to give the feedback, plus you have to give a solution. You can't just say, Jeremy, I don't like your shirt.
Right.
Done. Like that doesn't work here. So part of being, you know, deliberate is, hey, I'm going to think and do the work too. So if I come to you and I say, hey, you made this website and, you know, and the client, before we send it to the client, I don't like it. Like, here's what I think you should do instead, right? And sometimes it's radical candor, right? Like, especially like my executive team, we've worked together for like a decade now, all of us. So like, it's funny, we'll be in a room and we'll be going at it. and people from the outside are like, these guys are crazy. But we kiss and make up after, because we know when we're in business mode and we're going after feedback, like we need to be like, you can't filter feedback sometimes. And we like, especially at the executive level, I don't expect the full team to be as radical, but they can. And when they do, it's like, well, thank you, because some of that feedback is difficult to deliver. So anyway, I'm saying all this to say, back to what Patrick Bet David does, like in our organization, it's really important to accept feedback. And I think in the in our personal lives, that's where a lot of people get tripped up with mindset, right? Is if you're in a relationship, whether it's a husband and wife, and it's like, well, I don't like the attitude that you just gave me, right? And it's like, you're going to go back and forth because of the fact that you're not happy about how you just got that feedback. Right.
Yeah.
And when we look at feedback as a golden opportunity to grow and learn and be a student, right? You're like, wow, that person just gave me that feedback. And so my only thing on that point, which I love, is that's what I want to also build into my kids is, hey, don't ever be offended. And I think one thing I'll just say, I have a lot of friends that are Jewish, and I have a lot of clients that are Jewish, whether it's Orthodox or Hasidic. And one of my clients that's also a friend said to me, he's like, dude, this type of stuff, like they're like taught so early in life that like if somebody like nails them with feedback and they're a total jerk about it, it does not affect them personally. They're not affected by it. And it's something that I really want to like train. Obviously we focus on it with our team, but like with my kids especially, because like at the end of the day, when you're closed off to feedback because you're like, your ego, right? Because our egos are not our amigos, right? And
I like that.
So at the end of the day, right? That's all we always say here is like our egos are not our amigos. So when those things show up for us in our personal life, that happens so much. And back to what you said earlier about the whole when you're driving in a car have bad thoughts, it still happens to me. And I think it's an endless mountaintop. Mindfulness and growing as a person and as a professional and as a husband, a wife, a friend, a blah, 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 that's an endless mountaintop. You're never going to reach the summit. You're always going to be climbing, right? So that's why my executive coach always says, hey, life is tough, so I hope you like climbing, right?
Absolutely.
Because that's the thing. So in this sense, I think being mindful and meditating helps you supercharge the lens that you see the world at. And I'm still at such a little place, but of it. But it's helped me. But that's why I'm excited to. I'm going to download the app today. I've been looking at it, but I'm going to download it today because I really want to start to get more mindful.
Yeah, and my mission. And my mission's a little silly, but it's to make mindfulness as common as brushing our teeth. Because I think in the West, we're so gun-ho about, goals, vision, success, like pushing the envelope, like working 20-hour days.
Right.
And that's all great. Not to say that, but everyone's definition of success is different. And I think a lot of people in the West are starting to come to mental health and understanding like just being mentally healthy and being pleasant with yourself could be success in itself.
100%.
Like, it doesn't have to be a number in your bank account. It doesn't have to be a certain type of house that you have. But I think, and bringing it back to our children is like, I have a 4-year-old and 2-year-old. You have very young children.
Yep.
Like, I think about the world that they're going to go into.
Right.
And what's going to make the biggest shift in our society is it's probably not going to be a politician, maybe, could be, but it's probably not going to be like a book that I write. But at the end of the day, I think if we can institute mindfulness into education, into schools, and we can teach our kids at a young age to be mindful. Like imagine if every single kid in the United States or across the world was learning mindfulness on a daily basis. And they did that from the time they were 5 and the time that they were 18.
Right. That would be, I'm just going to go live on one more on my personal. But that's the thing though too, even that alone, like even think about that from a mindset as well. So we have mindset. And then also what about like people being like, hey, like encouraged to fail in school.
Right.
Yeah. Like that would even be really cool as well. Thank you.
I agree 1,000%. And to your point about Patrick Bet David, like one thing I want to ask my children when they come home is, what problems did you solve today?
Right.
It's like, because it's not like, well, most people are like, how was your day at school, right? What did you learn at school today? But like, I've always heard from the most successful people, it's like, success is really what's the problem you're solving, the most successful people are solving the biggest problems in the world, right? And, financials or monetary success is really, tied to the problems that you're solving in life. So if you're solving big problems, then you'll probably be, financially more successful in that regard.
True. And also the one thing I think about the school system too is like when you think about it, why are like we not teaching people, like I was in all remedial classes growing up. So I was in like I didn't have to take SATs or certain tests and stuff, and there was like an aide in the class that helped a couple people in the class because they said I had learning disabilities. And like the way that is framed up for most of the kids, because when you think about it in retrospect, like I am in a classroom with 30 kids or 28 kids, and I have one person at the front of that room that knows how to teach, talk, and do something the way her brain is wired to do it or he's wired to do it. And and maybe that's not the way that I'm wired, right? Mm-hmm. And so like at the end of the day, in the school system, I feel like the one thing that I feel like has like not been evolved besides mindfulness is also like, well, why are we not teaching kids how to also be successful financially and to think about like their future and stuff, right? Because like the issue I feel like I see a lot at times now is people come out of college and like they are like wanting to make $1 million a year out of college, and these colleges are pumping up everybody's heads like, oh, you're gonna make tons of money, go do this, go do that, and then they come out and like it's not reality. Like they're not getting that money. They're not like getting the job right away like the college promotes. Like you're gonna get a job right away. Like you come here, spend money, you're gonna get that job. And it's like, but we're not teaching people like the actual like, yes, books are one thing, right? Like I only have a high school diploma, but books are one thing. But when you're in the real world, like, and you're doing the real things, like going through like you said, life is tough. So when you're going through like the real tough shit of life, like, hey, like again, like we met, obviously we both know Joe. When Joe first started, when he was obviously involved in Thrive, when they first started that, like he put all his money that he had left, like, him and both AJ, but him specifically into it. And like, they didn't know what was going to happen. Like they don't teach you that in school, right? Like, hey, you might not have a paycheck, or you might get kicked out of your apartment. You might not have whatever. Like they don't teach you those principles in school. It's not even a thought. And so like, that's the thing that I think sets people up for failure, because when you go into the real world, it's almost like Ray Dalio always says, like, hey, like life is like the jungle. And there are people who have been through the jungle, and you want to find those people because they could help you not get killed, not get bit, not all the insects like bite you, whatever. You have the ability to learn from somebody, or you can be courageous and figure it out on your own. And I think the difference is like the jungle that life is, I don't think that school sets you up for, like all the craziness of it, right? So I think back to your point of mindfulness, it's one of those things where it's like, we should be taught those things too.
Absolutely. I think school is well-intentioned and public school is well-intentioned, and I know a lot of teachers, and it's a really stressful job. And to your point, like 30 kids in a classroom with one teacher, like how, and they have these, special needs for every child, or SEL, right? That they, labeling every child with these different needs. But how is a teacher supposed to help each individual child? They can't. It's just impossible. But I think the real issue, if we're looking at the large issue, is like how we're funding schools, and we do state testing, right? I think we need to take a step back and like, there's a lot of European countries that, are doing it much differently. I have my kid actually in Montessori school, which takes a much different approach. Yeah. And I think...
What is it? It's like, I know there's no technology, right? It's just like wood blocks.
No technology, wood blocks. It's very simple. Like you'll never see, like sometimes you go into classrooms in public school, there's like all these colors, right? Yeah. And like they're more about like less colors, less stimulation, and it's more of like it's almost like choose your own adventure for the day. Like so my son shows up to class every morning, and he already knows like he can count to like 300 and he's 4. Right. Like and like it's wild, but like every morning he'll go to this one number thing, and he'll literally place these blocks from like 0 to 100, right? And that's what he loves to do. And I'm not a numbers guy, so I don't know where that came from. Right. But he loves numbers. Yeah. So but the teachers allow him to do that and what they gravitate towards. So whatever they're gravitating towards, they'll encourage that, versus like having, like you said, all 30 kids, this is what we're focused on today, and little Johnny over here has no idea, like, or he doesn't care about this, and then you got, this other kid who doesn't care, but they're being forced to pay attention to things that they don't really care about. And I think it's like less about just letting kids be kids, number one, in the beginning. Like I've heard a lot of people say like up until about 8 years old that they should just kind of have free time, playtime. But But I think past that, it's like, you know, let them explore their true passions in life. Like, we're just forcing them down, like, this is the class you have to take, this is what you have to learn for the day. But let them like figure out more of what they enjoy and what they're passionate about.
Yeah, I like that a lot. But you know what's so interesting? So one of my wife and I, so we're looking at a daycare to get my son, because he's 2 and change now. And we went just for socializing, right? Because like he has the twins there with him, and his cousins are like, you know, a little more down south, so we don't see them all the time. But he's always around grown-ups, so we're like, let's get him into school, let's have him having fun. He's like a really smart kid. You know, he's like 2 and he's like talking tremendously and stuff. But like we just want to get him like socialized. So we're looking at all these different daycares. We're interviewing and stuff, and one of the daycares was like, everybody, like, we don't allow lunches from home. Like, everybody eats the same thing, so that like there's no like, oh, like I want that, why is he having that, whatever. It's like if everybody's having broccoli and like little chicken, like everybody's having it, right? And I remember I left there and I'm like, I'm like, all right, they're having broccoli and chicken, everyone's having it. And I'm like, that's a good way to like make the kids not like obviously be like, well, I want something else, but also like that's also not life.
Right.
The game of life is never going to be everyone's eating broccoli and chicken. Yeah, right. On a small scale, right? Yeah. But like, so I don't know. So like, we didn't want him going to that school, not just for that. But I remember thinking like, all these things matter, man. You know what I mean? And it's like, when you think about mindfulness, the reason why I'm bringing this all up in the first place is like, because what is our future? Our kids. Our kids are the future. And so when you think about mindfulness from the rip, right, from this young age to when you're older, you just see so many different crazy things, man. Like these kids that like start shooting up schools or doing like really negative things or hurting themselves. And it's like, damn, you look at the parents, it's like that's always going to be the thought. Like as a parent or as an observing parent of another parent, like what did they do or what could I do so like my kid never does that shit? And I feel like these things that we're talking about. But now I have a question for you. So we had a podcast, and we were talking about how like people are byproducts of their upbringing, right? Like that was my POV. Like I think we're byproducts. Like I grew up, my family had some financial troubles. My family's been on food stamps before, like stuff like that. And like I am who I am today because again, like that plus my dad had alcoholism and all these other things, and you know, and the list goes on. But in the moment, it sucked. But obviously, it made me a leader very young because I had to step up as like the man of the house because my dad wasn't home. And so we were having this conversation on a podcast, and the other gentleman, Sal, said, well, I don't think it has anything to do with that. Maybe a small percentage. He's like, I believe it has to do with the way you're wired and your actual, like, the way you're wired, you're hardwired a certain way. And if you're just a go-getter, you're going to be a go-getter whether or not your dad's an alcoholic and you have no money or you do. What's your take on that?
Well, I'm not a therapist or a psychologist, but based on my understanding of the reading I've done, like from the ages of 6 to 11 years old, a lot of that conditions our brains. So our brains are conditioned. If you think of our brain, like there's grooves on our brain, right? So it's like a record player. So if you have it on the same groove of the record player, it's going to just keep playing that same thing over and over again. Now you can change the neuroplasticity of your brain.
Yeah, so is that crazy?
It is.
Keep going.
So you can change your brain, right? So, I mean, yeah, he's right to an extent, but you're wired through your childhood.
Right.
Right? That wiring is formulated through your childhood of the conditioning that you've seen from your parents. Now, you've kind of done that one or two ways, right? Yeah. You could have went down the path of being an alcoholic, drug abuser, and a loser because you said, well, that was my dad, right?
Right.
But you also took the other route of like, no, there was something inside of you, like maybe it was from your mother's side, maybe it was an influence, like a sports player or something you saw as a child that you were like, no, I'm meant to be something greater. I'm a leader. Like I'm not meant to go down that path. I'm meant to be here for my family, taking care of them.
Right.
So there might have been something instinctually inside of you, but I think a lot of it is conditioned as a child, and we're all just reliving our childhood memories as adults unless we actively work hard through mindfulness, through positive thinking, through affirmations, through reading books, because the inputs equals the outputs, right? So, if we just kind of say, well, I am who I am, then nothing's ever going to change. But I think from an early childhood, so I think you both are right.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's what, and I said it to him. I said, the things I definitely agree with you about. But then there's also, again, like, even if you're hardwired a certain way, if I dropped you off in the middle of a country that you don't speak any language in, right? and let's just say it was in a third world country, and there was no way of getting back. So you just had to figure it out and adapt. Even if you're hardwired to like be more comfortable and like laid back, whatever, you're, because of nature and the forces against you, you're gonna have to figure it out. No matter what, no matter how you're hardwired. Right. And so like, that's why like I do believe there's personalities that'll help drive it faster and more successfully. But I also, like I said, so anyway, I appreciate that insight. As we get close to the end here, I have 2 questions.
Okay.
One's more difficult. Okay. And one's a little bit, I'll say it's like a little mild. It's not as spicy.
Okay.
Which one do you want first?
Let's go the spicy route.
All right. I like it. So, legacy typically, is framed by like where we are today. Your feet are planted here in Point Pleasant Beach, New Jersey today, which I'm grateful for, by the way, you being here.
Absolutely.
And then obviously you thinking forward, right? Like what you're going to leave behind for your boys, for your wife, your family, people around you care about. And so I kind of like to reverse engineer this, right, into like a little like kind of like an exercise / like simulation that I hope never happens. But so I want to picture your boys are sitting there and they're looking at your gravestone, and they have their kids who never met you, and your sons are saying, "Man, I really wish you met Grandpa Jeremy. Like, he was X." What would from your legacy? What do you want your family, your kids, especially the most important people in your life, to say that you were to them and to the people around you?
It was always present and loves unconditionally.
Boom. He was like ready for that one. Most people are like,
Yeah, I've thought about this before, actually. I think about death a lot because I think we fear death so much. And it's actually funny. I just visited I'm from Florida, born and raised. I've been in New Jersey now 9 years.
Right.
My parents still live in Florida, but I just met with them. And we actually just went, like, my parents are buying this, like, death package where once they die, like, everything's taken care of. Like,
right. It's all set up.
It's all set up, right?
Isn't that so weird to think about?
It is weird to think about, but it's also, I know there's certain cultures and tribes that are like, living in third world nations, but like they don't even think about death being sad. It's the circle of life,
totally.
And I think we're just, it is sad for our culture to think about death. And of course, thinking about losing my parents is very sad. And I'm sure I'll cry a bunch when I do lose them, right? But I think also I want to enjoy the now and, the life that they do have. And I want to remember all the positive things that they have, brought to my life. So I think, death is also something that if we think about, it's like, how am I living today? Because one day I will die.
Right.
And this life isn't forever, but sometimes we act as if life will go on forever. And it's very short. Sometimes we're like, this is a long life, but I could leave here and get, God forbid, get in a car accident and I could be gone, right?
Yep.
And I'm actually okay with that. Of course, I want to be here for my boys and everything, but like, I don't necessarily fear death, but I fear, not living life.
Yeah. Like throughout the process.
Yeah, and not challenging myself and and really pushing myself, because life is hard. And like you said, it's like going through the jungle, and some days we're going to go through that resistance. But I think also the more challenges we give ourselves, the more we can handle the challenges of life. Because there's some kids today like who play video games, and maybe they grow up and all they've done is play video games. If you drop them in the middle of nowhere or whatever, they might just lie down and not do anything, right? Because they haven't built that muscle of resistance and facing challenges.
Right.
So like the more challenges you give yourself, but also you have to practice positive affirmations, because when shit hits the fan, right, are you going to say life sucks, this is hard, I suck, you suck, or are you going to be like, no, this is okay, I can do this, take a breath, right? And just face it as it comes, but not let all the thoughts swirl out of control.
Yeah, I love that. And then lastly, has there been any sort of positive quote or just some sort of adage that you think about when it pertains to resilience?
John Maxwell is probably one of my favorite mentors in life. I've read a lot of his books. 15 Laws of Invaluable Growth is probably my favorite book of all time. But one thing he says is you can focus on goals, and you might hit your goals, but you'll always say what's next.
Right.
But if you focus,
especially if you're type A.
Yeah, especially if you're type A, right? And that's not necessarily bad per se.
Right.
But if you focus, he says, if you focus on growth, you'll hit your goals, but grow along the way as well. Because goals doesn't always mean growth.
Right. True.
But if you're focused on growth, you'll always hit your goals, and growth will always come. So I always think about how can I grow as a human being and increase my capacity to give more to life. And
I love that, man. Yeah. I love your mind.
Thank
you have a good mind.
Appreciate you, John. It's been great. This has been a pleasure.
Yeah, you've been great as well, man. Where can people find this app? Tell them the name. Tell them where they can get it and where they can engage with you on social media
Absolutely.
channels.
So you can get the app. It's Mindful Buddy. Just literally go to the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. Just type in Mindful Buddy. It's a little green icon with a little character called Amy that I named AI Mindful Integration. So it's AIMI,
cool.
Amy. And it's a little green character. So and you can also find us on Instagram, mindfulbuddy.ai. It's built with artificial intelligence. You can find us on LinkedIn. We're on TikTok. And then if you want to follow me on Instagram, my handle is Pure Stage of Knowing, or just type in Jeremy Yencer, and you'll find me there as well.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for today, dude. I
John,
appreciate
it's been
you, man.
great. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Bam. Good stuff, dude.